Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, and my friends, it is time for the big Season 4 patch for Guilty Gear Strive. Now, we have Dizzy here, obviously enough, new character, that's really cool. And we also have, actually, that color is really, I like that color a lot. We have a whole rebalance for the entire cast of the game. And we're going to be covering it, well, everything character by character. So this is assuredly a longer video, because we're doing the whole thing, right? So there'll be timestamps, so skip forward to whatever character you're interested in. And if you do, please leave a like, it does help the video quite a bit. Now, a few notes real quick before we get into it. So, the patch here, there's a lot of like micro changes, a lot of changes to like just health and damage. Overall, it's going to be different character to character, but overall, every character is going to be a little bit more survivable. A lot of the defense number values have changed, so overall, most characters will just simply take less damage. That said, there's also some tweaking. Lots of characters do more damage on a lot of their various moves. So when it comes to like these micro tweaking, I'm not going to mention for every single character unless I think the damage is substantially more. And also, there's lots of little changes like universalification of like 6Ps, forward and punch, and a lot of little tiny hitbox-hurtbox interactions. It doesn't really bear mentioning in this video. The full patch notes will be listed in the video description if you want to check out every little single nuance. I'm here basically to give you basically all the big hits of all the changes for all the characters. That's kind of what the plan of the video is. So that said, let's start at the start here, and let's start with Soul. So for Soul, some of the changes out of the gate. I did mention I don't want to mention every single 6P change because there's a lot of like making that more universal, but he's got to change to the counter hit specifically. So when it hits as a counter hit now, the opponent remains grounded. So before here, hopefully I'm doing this right and showing the old footage, before it would launch. Now they're on the ground. Now, unfortunately, can't like link into Far Slash or anything like that, but it is still special cancelable. You can go like Bandit Revolver. You can go into anything that's special cancelable, right? So certainly different. Other general changes of the characters, he has a bit more recovery on forward slash, the big old poke. That still got some range to it, so don't worry about that, but there is more recovery. Also, the first hit of stand kick has more startup. They don't mention specific numbers when it comes to frame data, but I'm assuming it's not a 3-framer anymore. So, end of an era, I suppose. Some other changes. Bandit Revolver, if it does not connect, now has a bit more recovery. So, no more using it as like, movement in and of itself, I guess. It's not a lot, but it is noticeable compared to the older build as I had it side by side. But it's hard to show, but trust me, if you can feel it, I guess. Some other changes here. Wild Throw. I mentioned the universal damage buffs here. This one is actually a bit more significant than the rest. Now does against Soul 121. Against Soul before the patch, it used to do 98 damage. So that's actually fairly substantive. So Big Boy Grappler Soul is much more real, I suppose. Other changes here. Bandit Bringer. So Bandit Bringer now bounces better in the corner, as in it bounces at all in the corner. In certain situations, like here, I can get like a close S afterwards, would just straight up whiff before. So potentially more combo ability as well. Also, specifically the grounded version now contributes less to wall break, so you can get more in your corner combos. The giving point is the air version can no longer be held. You have the one version, that's it, that's all you get. So, a bit more utility in the corner for various combos, but less tricky overall. So, Night Raid Vortex does not quite launch as high as it used to. So, that's definitely a nerf, but it's now special cancelable. So, you can actually use it in various combos in a way you never could before. So that's certainly interesting. Like, you can just have applications for it that just didn't exist before, right? So that's an interesting change. Now, Fafnir. So I'm showing you the old version of Fafnir right now, right? So now let's look at the new version of Fafnir. That's not the same, as you can see. So Fafnir is effectively reworked. So the move itself is a good deal faster startup, but say on block, Ain't no plus on block no more. No more guard crush, right? That's definitely different, but the combo ability has been changed up. So now how it works is with certain specific heights, basically just wall bounces. So you can just keep comboing from there. It's certainly not the same move. You're gonna have to rework what you thought about it, right? So it's faster, you can use it in combos more, but it's not quite the sledgehammer that it used to be. And finally, Heavy Mob Cemetery. So Heavy Mob Cemetery, now taking inspiration from Slayer, I guess, is now a 100% tension move. It takes all your bar. You have less than 100% bar, you can't use it. And you can combo into it from normals. So this is basically the big gotcha move now if you happen to have quite a bit of bar. It does a lot more damage. It does a lot more minimum damage. So even if you're using a longer combo, you'll still get a good chunk in. So hopefully a lot more usable now. So Kai, there's the one thing to talk about. But let's talk about the other stuff first. So Foudre Arc, big old flippy kicks, right? So now when it comes to like general combo ability, it's a bit more difficult. It's basically in any given way where we would use it in a combo. The opponent bounces much faster now, so it's a bit harder to get follow-ups. You still can, but maybe not corner-to-corner combos anymore. Now here's a fun one, Uppercut. So a lot of uppercut changes across the board here. He does more damage with his uppercut, that's great. But you may notice when he has the shock state up, right? The blowback's a bit different. So here it is before the patch, as you can see, and here it is after the patch, which basically means you get follow-ups. So now if they're in the shock state, you get straight up combo ability off the uppercut. That's actually really cool, right? So a lot more utility. And now, well, let's talk the shock state. So when your opponent's in shock state or you're in the dragon install, the hit stop, as it's worded, basically lasts longer, right? And what this effectively means is on hit, stun, block stun, the whole process takes longer. So let me show you what this means in like a really cool way and in a really stupid way. And being in this channel, we're going to show you the stupid way first. All right, so say we got Dragon install up, right? More hit stop on the hits. So basically, once again, it means they're in this state longer, so easier to follow up. Sure, right? This might be unintentional. I'm thinking this is unintentional. So what I'm about to show you may very well be patched out, but still, in the interest of science, I gotta show you. So basically, as it has the increased hit stop, right? You can eventually get it where there's a bit of a sweet spot. And then, well, you got a true blue infinite on your hands, unless you drop it like I just did, right? So, like, certainly different, right? Like, I don't know if this one made it past QA or what exactly is going on here, but as it is, this is an infinite. So maybe Dragon Install Kai just gets infinites. I don't know. But once again, I think they'll probably patch this out, but play around with it. Play around with it, right? Like, while it's still here. So there's that, which is silly in and of itself. But now, what does this mean for non-Dragon Install Kai? So now with the block stun being increased effectively because the hit stop's increased, right? This example here from before the patch, I do the thing, I go in, and of course I get the duck in time because my block stun's over, sure. But how this works now, so now because we have increased hit stop / block stun because of the shock state, in this same scenario here, like ideally, I crouch block as normal for a 2D fighter, I stand when I see him in the air, and I try to return to crouching when he hits the ground again, right? And now what's going to happen instead is this. You can see my inputs here, right? Oh, jumping stand. And I went back to down back afterwards, right? And when I went back to down back, I was still counting as standing. Because the block stun is different now, right? Because that last hit. So effectively, Kai can like kind of 50-50 you in this exact specific scenario, right? But yeah, it's a fuzzy overhead is what we would call that. So it's certainly tricky, and I'm sure with time there's going to be a lot more setups, right? This is just one example of potentially many. But yeah, fuzzy overheads are on the table now thanks to this change. So May, a lot of little tweaks in like as far as our normals go. So like stand kick, bar S, crouch S, all these have increased startup. So that kind of sucks. Bar S has a little bit less recovery though. Crouch S has more recovery. So there you go. Besides the main change, the other big change, stand heavy slash. So stand heavy slash, the counter hit has changed. So here's what the counter hit looked like before the patch. So okay, that's how that worked, right? And now here after the patch, you can see here it straight up bounces. So like Totsugeki after the fact, sure, whatever. I'm sure there'll be new combos. So there's that. Now, besides that, the other big change, Mr. Dolphin, Totsugeki. So a while back when they had new moves, they had the split, right? Where you could jump off the dolphin. So now you actually have a modicum of air control when doing the split. So if you hold forward or back, you'll either stay closer or potentially like go further and go clear over the enemy, right? So you now have basically 3 modes. You have what it was before when you hit no button. You have holding back, and you have holding forward, which puts you way the F out, right? So more trickiness, more mobility. And as far as May goes, that's the main crux of it. Okay, Axl, let's start the show with the showstopper, I guess. I want you to watch me walk forward, because Sickle Flash, I just did it while walking forward, because it's a motion now. Yes, sirree, no longer a charge move, it is a motion. Also, can cancel into the One Vision Super as well, right? So, that, being able to do it on demand, as far as I can tell, nothing about the frame data has changed or anything. So making this move just on demand instead of charge is a pretty big deal. And once again, I'm not mentioning every single damage change, but he does have significantly more damage off his various moves that have like sweet spots. So just, you know, normal Zony boy Axl is doing pretty all right. Another big change is Rainwater. So this is effectively reverting it to how it used to be back in the day. So before, it would like kind of vacuum you in on hit or on block, right? And now if it hits, it just smacks them, sends them on their way again. So that's certainly a change. I'm not an Axl player, so I'll leave it up to you if that's good or bad, right? But basically, it's back to how it used to be. Also, his projectile they added a little bit ago here, the Whistling Wind, now launches. So if it hits, it hits. And then you can, say, go into stuff like forward and kick, 6k, right? This also bounces people higher than it did before, so made new combo ability. So yeah, a bunch of interesting changes for Axl. Okay, Chipp. So Stand P says has increased startup, so it might not be the fastest move anymore. I don't know. They don't show the frame data, unfortunately. But here's the main event. We got the silly ninja rope. Woo! So we got a whole new era of insanity, I guess. Because you have the ninja rope. You can go upside down, right? Like whatever you want to do. Like, this is now the reality. This is now the world we live in, basically. Where Chipp can just put the rope up on the screen, and we got to deal with it and go from there. You can also freely get off it whenever you want, hitting dust, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of mix-ups and all that. Especially because, like, you can summon rope from just, you know, basic string, right? Like, so you can do this silliness whenever you want. He has, you know, a variety of normals. Like, you can do his lights, you can do slashes, you can do heavy slash, all that kind of stuff, kick. Like, he has the arsenal, basically, right? Just from this whole new angle. I don't know. Chipp's too crazy for me. I'll just be the first to say it. This is not my kind of character. This breaks my brain. I'll leave this one to you guys. That's what's new for Chipp. Now, on to my kind of character. I am conflicted. There's certainly things that are better, but a lot of the core Potemkin experience is now gone. So, one of the things, Potemkin Buster has more range, but it doesn't have Kara Buster range. So you ain't grabbing people from round start position anymore. It's just not happening, right? Admittedly, it goes a little bit further than it used to, but anything forward kick. We would call this the Kara cancel, right? So you can blend that into your move and give it artificial range, and none of that works anymore. So no more Garudas, no more Busters, no more Karaback Mega Fist. All of that is gone. So we lost a lot of the arsenal basically, right? Now there's this stuff, right? On top of having a little more base range, it also has armored startup now. It's not frame 1. It's later in the startup of the move, right? So it's not like just a reversal as far as I can tell. So if you smell it and you got the right timing, you can call stuff out that you couldn't before with the grab. So that is another aspect of the character, I guess, that did not exist before. Other things here, he gains more tension while walking forward. That's cool, I guess. Stand, punch, hitbox is improved. They don't have a hitbox viewer built in or nothing, so I can't show you, but I can feel it. It definitely is expanded a fair bit. Things like close S if you OTG, you're now left closer than you were before. So I guess better pressure after the fact. That's something, right? Also, just Potemkin Buster as a whole, like even mid-screen, right? So you are actually now a good deal closer than you were before. So here's the current build, obviously enough. Here's what it looked like before the patch. So you're just that much closer to the enemy. So be able to pressure after the fact. That exists now. That's something. Counter hit, crouch, heavy punch. Now launches, I would say, about 25% or so higher. So when you're looking for your, like, you know, your various gimmicks, it's there, I guess. Forward, heavy slash. Now wall bounces by itself. You don't need to be airborne. It just has to hit, and it will wall bounce. So by itself, timing is admittedly kind of tight. Without any fanciness, you can do something like this. Once again, timing is a little tight, right? The full particulars of this will take some exploring, but that is an interesting change. There's a lot of little things here, like Jump S has slightly less pushback than it did before. Heat Tackle, the new move added not too long ago, now has a new input. It is a Dragon Punch motion and kick. The Mega Fist, we have no more Kara Mega Fist, right? So these have been changed up a little bit. So base Mega Fist recovery is faster if it whiffs. So once again, using, say, that counter hit change for crouch heavy slash, potentially new combo routing, we'll find out, I guess. Back Mega Fist now bounces on any regular hit. So that's something. Also, they took away the frame advantage, so it is now less advantage on block, so there you go, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, also, the trajectory is just a little bit different. So this one, it'll take a while to figure out the real feel for this. But here's one that's stupid and ignorant and good. This is unequivocally good. Okay, Slide Head technically has more recovery. Whatever. Because Slide Head does damage again now. It does damage again now. And also, it's a guard crush again, too, on top of that, right? So this is like, this is how it worked in the beta, if I remember right, like years ago, right? So this is pretty cool. Slide Head always had the utility, but now you actually get damage for the reward as well for getting it. So I like that a lot. More changes. FTB, Flick, now has a new motion, score circle back kick. And very importantly, it can get things it can never get before. Like, say, Happy's gunshots. So this changes the match quite a bit, right? And there's other things like some of Asuka's more wacky projectiles. It can basically get just about anything short of supers now, right? So it's been expanded, and that can get a lot of different things. Also, it reaches full charge ever so slightly faster, although the base startup's just a little bit slower. And if he does actually successfully reflect something, then while the reflect is live, at least till you can recover, he's full invincible. So if there's like a lot of garbage on the screen, he can't get hit out of it. So that is another, I'd say, just big buff. More nerfs, more buffs. Garuda. So Garuda, you may not notice it, but I got counter hit turned on right now. Garuda can no longer counter hit, which that is assuredly a nerf. And especially with the fact that you can no longer Kara cancel the beloved Garuda counter hit, Kara cancel, Garuda, and like those combos are dead as a dodo. Now, as a consolation prize, it no longer counts as a physical strike. It's a projectile now. And what does that mean? It means now, in the corner on block, right? Strikes push you back if you get blocked in the corner. Projectiles do not. Therefore, I am literally in your face. Like, for the duration of this, right? I do not get pushed back out at all. So if you are sloppy and need a Garuda, like Potemkin does not budge an inch. So as a purely pressure tool in the corner when you're already in the corner, I guess that's better. And he no longer has white Wild Assault, he has blue Wild Assault, which means I guess at a minimum, he can combo into Potemkin Buster off strings, I guess, that's something. Or like if you're somewhat near the corner, I guess there'll be new combo routes, that's something, I don't know, that's... I don't know what to feel about that, to be honest with you. Potemkin lost a lot. He gained stuff, but he lost stuff. He's, in a lot of ways, I guess you could argue, a new character, so it's gonna take some time to adjust. Faust! So, definitely one core nerf in that he has more recovery on dive kick. So, down kick in the air, right? So, might, keyword might, stop people from going too crazy on it. I don't think it will. Dive kicker's got a dive kick, right? But yeah, so more recovery on that. So that is certainly a nerf, right? But here's the buff. So the item store mechanic, where you can just, hold on to an item, call it up later, right? So now, when you store an item, except for Meteor, thank you, Random Meteor, for reminding me, because I would have forgot. But anything except for Meteor, when you call the item now, and if you hold back or forward, it'll now basically, like, keep that momentum. So you have 3 angles of shot. You can have the base shot, which was already there, or you can hold back and it's closer, or you can hold forward and it'll shoot out quite a bit further. So basically gives you more option to control the screen. Now, on that exact note, more options to control the screen, we got an all-new move. We got the Golf Club. So the Golf Club is another way to interact with items, and it can send them flying even when they're grounded. Like, yes, we have the dust, and they changed the hitbox on dust to make it a little bit easier to interact with items. But if an item's just fully on the ground, no matter what the item may be, even like the Afro, right? If the Afro's here, you can force the Afro on the enemy against their will, which makes Afro that much stronger, because, like, sometimes if Afro doesn't hit, well, it's kind of a dead item, right? But all the various items, little mini Faust, like anything you can think of, even if it's, like, actively detrimental to you, like, say, Trumpet or something, right? Anything that is on the ground, except for Meteor, can now be golf clubbed into the enemy. So this adds just another layer to his item game, and I think that's actually really, really cool. So, item toss is the heart of this character, maximizing the RNG, and now with the store being able to, manipulate where it lands, and also being able to manipulate where it gets tossed, thanks to the new move, I think that's really cool. Is it worth nerfing dive kick? I don't know. We'll see. But it certainly makes Faust more Faust. So Millia, not a lot of changes, but interesting. First, Millia being, a very air dashy character, right? Her air backdash specifically can now immediately cancel out of the start of the move into whatever. Before you'd have to, like, complete it, then do what you're going to do. Now you can do it, like, immediately, right? So just like on a basic mix level, it's harder to react to, like, backdash, left-right mix-ups, I guess. So that's something. Also, Jump Dust. So Jump Dust, now you can air dash after it, like, much lower to the ground. So various combos are just, like, that much easier now, basically. So that's something else as well. The big one here, Capel no longer knocks the enemy down. So before, if it connected in any way, shape, or form, it would float the enemy. And now, well, it doesn't. So that's a change. Rest assured, nobody in the history of life ever will accuse me of being a Millia player. I've definitely seen people not too happy about this. But your mileage may vary. All I can report to you is it definitely used to launch people, and you can get air combos guaranteed on hit. And now you definitely can't. If you can get the right angles on it, you can get it to go into various grounded strings, right? So play around with it, I guess. I don't know. First of all, I don't know too much about Millia. At the very least, I think the Jump Dust change is good, and I think the backdash change is excellent for her. So Zato. So out of the gate here. Okay, so Slash. The attack levels increase, basically giving it more effective hit stun, which means now combos naturally into Invite Hell. Decent enough poke. Like, there's stuff to appreciate here, right? That this is all just one natural combo and you can poke out with it. Sure, that's pretty all right. Then Heavy Slash now has much less push back, which means, like say, as an example given in the patch notes, this into Wild Assault into Grab would be a combo because it leaves you that much closer, and then you just kind of go from there, right? Also going like Close Slash, whatever. So as a Pokeboy thing into, say, specifically Wild Assault, I guess that is better. They reworked how Oppose works. So Oppose, like, it still takes all the bar when it's all said and done, right? But the initial parts where Eddie's kind of guarding you, that actually takes up less meter than it did before. So if you can get him to end it early just by like going into another move or just kind of sending him on his way, you do get to keep some of that meter. But if you let it rock, well then it's going to go away. But don't worry, because now they changed Command Grab, where if you get land Command Grab, it just refills your Eddie bar completely. Now, granted, unless it was like literally empty right when you did it, you know, you probably recover most of it or all of it while you're in the animation for the move anyways, but that's something, I guess, right? Gotta take the buffs where you can get them. Things like Forward Heavy Slash now goes a bit further, also goes just a bit faster, like the startup has been increased, or rather decreased, rather. So I guess for like general pressure using this move, that can be better. A lot of damage changes as well for the character. Many characters have damage changes. Zato a bit more than most. It's all in the patch notes. They also nerfed some Eddie lockdown. So if you go for Sword Super and the drills right after, the Sword Super now has more recovery on block. So he can't instant lock people down. So that's a nerf, I guess. So Eddie fans, I don't know, you're in it for the long haul, right? Like that comboing now is kind of cool, right? That's not nothing. That's not nothing. So enjoy. Okay, so Ramlethal is another character that got a massive level of changes, like effectively changing the kind of character she is. So let's start with an easy one here, Daro. So Daro just launches in and of itself. There's nothing needed. You don't got to, like, you know, dust into launch, like, it just does it in and of itself. So you can do it into basically like whatever combos you can dream up. It'll all work. So it makes like random poking the Daro like an actual threat because you get juggle potential. Don't got to work for it. That's cool. Also stuff like Cortical Back Kick. This guy is a true blue overhead now. Must be blocked standing. So Ram's set to crush block right now, right? So we do it. And as you can see here, she has to stand to block it. Making this an actual overhead is interesting, especially because they made the move quite a bit faster, right? So you can just use this to sneak in and scam people with a quick overhead. That's something. Quarter circle back, Heavy Slash, the big old slice, right? Is now cancelable from normals. So you can actually do like Close Slash, Crouch Heavy Slash into the special, and it's an actual combo. So just being able to use this move in many situations is now much more viable because, well, you can use it. I've delayed enough here. Let's get to the main event here. Sword tosses are completely changed. So by itself, Heavy Slash version kind of looks like what you remember. The Slash version definitely doesn't. Slash version now comes in like a 45-degree angle. It launches the enemy. It's a full-on launcher now, so like all sorts of new combo routes, and like anything you can dream up is going to be doable. Also, both of these bad boys, the Slash version and the Heavy Slash version, are both guard crushes now too, on top of that. So that's, well, really good. You now have turbo advantage when they're blocked. So what's the downside, right? We got a new, better version of Slash. It launches, guard crush, all that. Well, one, buff and a nerf. You can take it as you want, right? The explosion follow-up now takes a little bit longer. So say the Heavy Slash version here, right? This would normally combo into itself in the corner. Now it doesn't. Now you can argue the delayed explosion gives you better mix-up potential. So buff, nerf, take it as you will. But the real nerf... Alright, let's go pick up our sword. What? Can't pick up your sword. You can't pick up your sword. You have to wait for the sword. Like, you always kind of had to wait for the sword mid-screen, I guess, but even if you could get it mid-screen, you can't get it. You have to wait for it to come back to you. Then you can pick it up. And also, the comeback, like, before it returns to you, is also a little bit longer now. So the uses of the sword tosses are wildly stronger. but you no longer get your swords back after it's done. You just have to wait the duration. So big buff, big nerf. Also, sword laser, the super, right? Big beam super. Normally, how this used to work is once you did it, it would just give you your swords back, right? If you have swords that are missing, you cannot do the super at all. So you just can't spend bar to get your swords back. Like, if the swords are gone, it's not a super you can do. You can still do Mortal Botto. You can still do Mortal Botto. That's still there. The damage is different now. A lot of the normals with the sword do more damage. A lot of the normals without the sword do less damage. Most characters, kind of the defense changes or damage buffs across the board. Ram actually has damage nerfs without swords. So keep that in mind. So yeah, without the swords, you can't just scam them back. You really, truly have to wait it out. Now, also the Rekka series. So they changed the motion. So the first part still quarter circle back, but the follow-up's just our back punch. You don't gotta do the motion again. And you can no longer dash cancel the second hit, which definitely is a nerf, but they also changed how the delayed versions work on block. So now, the delayed version, the second hit, is a guard crush on block, right? And the numbers are a bit different to the point where the third hit, you do delay, also a guard crush, and the third hit delayed, guard crush, is super advantage on block. Like before, definitely not. Like if we subject ourselves to the world famous jump test, my Ramlethal jumps first, therefore I have the advantage. Before, even with the charge version, it was definitely negative, right? So ruining is a strong term, but getting rid of the dash on the second hit, definitely a downside, but changing the numbers on the frame data for the positive on the delay Rekkas for the second and third hit, that is a buff. So a little less complex, but a little bit easier to use now. So Leo, not too much in the way changes here, but first, heavy flash kick now leaves the enemy a good deal closer than it did before. So you're just able to pressure after the fact. Now, what doesn't leave you closer, and this is a good thing, is back turn, Turbulence. Now has substantially more pushback on block. So here's what it is on the current build, and this is what it was beforehand, right? And as you can see, well, Leo is a good deal further away, which means he can, you know, walk forward, like he can do whatever he wants without the fear of necessarily immediate retaliation. So that's actually pretty good, I would say. And on that note, dashing. So he can dash from the stance, right? And now you can cancel the dash into whatever you want immediately. So that's actually really cool. Before, the dash just had to complete, and then you can do whatever, right? Now you just cancel out the dash, and also just keep that momentum as well, which is really cool. So that really helps to pressure a back turn stance. Also, back dash, which given stance is technically a forward, whatever, semantics, right? Now has invincibility like a regular backdash would. Not a lot, but if you happen to be in back turn and then backdash, then you can get some invincibility frames. So setting up into back turn is better, and the act of being a back turn, even if it's not a lot of changes, is definitely better as well. So Nagoriyuki, some fairly substantial changes. One, 6k. Now always inflicts the stagger state no matter what. No matter what. So say comboing into grab. That's the thing you do without counter hit. That's cool. Now here's another thing that's cool, at least to me. Heavy slash, crouch heavy slash are no longer special cancelable. So no more Beyblades or whatever. Like they are just the pokes, nothing else. Now that said, they do a lot more just damage, like a lot more chip damage. Like this is the move on chip now. Just a regular hit at like 0 blood, right? That's a lot. That's a lot, right? So they're leaning into the one hit metaphor, right? So no more combo ability, but the poke is in and of itself its own reward. For Dragon Punch motion, the follow-up here, second hit specifically just splats the enemy to the ground now. So no more like picking up with like Roman cancels. So that's definitely a nerf. Now we're leaning into that one hit thing real big because Rage Explosion now launches all the way up. And specifically in the corner, even base level, you can combo after the fact. You actually get a combo from it if it connects. Tied in with the fact that the Rage super has been reworked. So, you know, Rage drains your health. But if you do the super, it automatically puts you at 1 health. But the Rage super also does way more damage and way more minimum damage. So if you can combo into the Rage explosion in the corner, on the base level, as we showed, right, you can always get a jab at least, right? If you can get him any higher up in the air, you can get a close slash instead. And then, well, given that the Rage super does more damage and more minimum damage, at that point, in the wall break, it probably might just well be game, right? So the one-shot aspect of Nagoriyuki, the big single hit that wins, that's kind of what they're going for. So less combo ability on some things, which is unfortunately definitely a nerf, but they're definitely redefining what they consider the aspect of the character. Now Gio's got some interesting changes here. One, while you're in your Shrek install, you move faster. Like that's good enough itself, right? Forward walk and dash are just a little bit faster. Also, you're always given the damage buff, right? You actually do more damage now while in your full tension install state. So you're faster, do more damage before anything else. That's good. Also good, her forward heavy slash series here, the Rekka series. So before you could get it, like if you're very particular about the timing and delays to get it where like they would land close to you, now you don't even have to worry about it. Like you are basically directly on top of them after the final hit. Like, if you space timing, there'll be even more on top of them, I guess. But generally, the reward is just much higher. Like, you're going to be directly on top of the enemy after you get it. So that is also another nice buff for pressure. For Sepultura, they have wildly increased the pushback on block. Like, a lot. So, there is a bit more recovery on the move. But, generally speaking, it's effectively just a neutral reset if they block. Also, if you do Sepultura from Chave, I never know how to pronounce that, right? The range has been turbo increased. Like, turbo increase. It goes like basically half the screen now, right? It's big. It's big. Here you can see what it looked like before, and in comparison, yeah, the new version definitely got it beat. Now, Chave, whatever, drill kick. That, unfortunately, did lose the guard break property. Now, it's still advantage, right? But no more guard crush. Also, just the general momentum of the move is just a little bit better. So, yeah, good quality of life changes for Giovanna, I would say. So, Anji went full Looney Tunes. So, we'll say the nerfs first, just so we can build up with the buffs, right? So, Fujin Slash, the low, now pushes back much less, meaning the enemy is much closer. Meaning, if they catch you and they block low, they might be more prepared to punish it. Definitely a nerf. Fujin Overhead no longer bounces, so you do not get a combo after the fact. That is a strict nerf. Absolutely strict nerf. So what is he getting to make up for these? Like the 50-50 game effectively being worse. Charge Fujin can now cancel into effectively any other special move. Like, that's where the silliness is. So it can go into another Fujin, into effectively an infinite loop if you so choose. Like, you only stop when you stop. You can go into Ko. Like, you just can't go into Butterfly. Because, I don't know, that'd be too crazy, I guess. But yeah, so if you so choose on Heavy Fujin, Charge Fujin, you can still do all the regular follow-ups. Like, that part never went away. But now that you can choose to go into other moves, you can go to another Charge Fujin and effectively an infinite loop. You can go into regular Fujin, then go for your mix. Like, heavy, regular, then low, like whatever. But yeah, so the pressure game's getting reworked, right? If you allow Anji to keep taking turns, he can keep taking turns. Like, you know, and this ain't free, right? It builds your risk gauge, you take chip damage. It's not something you can afford to necessarily be passive against. So that is, admittedly, to me, pretty cool. Also, the overhead. It's faster, because it doesn't bounce. So there you go. That is a buff as well. Ino has some interesting changes. So note projectile, right? So they changed how it worked in that if you do the projectile while another projectile is on the screen, you get to. It just detonates the projectile immediately. And, you know, projectile being projectile, like it does have a bit of a hitbox as well. But yeah, so you can just keep the screen going with stuff. Like you can just fill the screen with trash. You do not have to let it complete in any way, shape, or form. So if you don't like where it's going, you can just toss out another one. You do not have to wait it out. Or say you just barely missed, you can like detonate it over someone's head. Like there's some gimmicks there, right? But you can just toss them out. So her ability to control the screen just through like the basic note is much better now, because she can recover from a whiff whenever she wants by just doing another one. I think it's cool. I don't know. I like it. Maybe it's not competitively, but I don't know. I think it's cool. Now what's definitely cool, Chemical Love. You can actually now go forward while doing Chemical Love. Like literally just hold forward, and instead of staying in place, she will move forward. So this, along with the note, definitely helps her ability to control space, because she can now move forward, and that's kind of the game, right? She wants to get in, do the mix, right? And that note as well, when you're in the air doing Chemical Love, you can also control your movement, and it has just base momentum now regardless, right? Before she would just be perfectly in place, and now you can like move forward while doing it, or just stay in place and move back. Like there's more momentum now for everything. And full charge heavy slash dive kick now charges much faster than it did before. So for the various combo structures like relying on this, they should be all the much easier for it. So good quality of life for Ino. Now Goldlewis, some sensible changes and some Looney Tune changes. Sensible changes, security meter basically changed. So say you do gunshot, right? Notice I'm basically like full security, right? How come it's not draining? So it's how long you hold it that basically determines how long the move is. So we've all had this, right? You're full security. Okay, here we go. Big minigun, right? And then, I don't know, something taps you, a projectile, and you lost everything. Goes to your level 3. Now you only lose what you committed to shoot. Much the same here. Other moves like drone, all that kind of stuff, the security meter drains out just a little bit later. So if you're smoked out of your move just as you're starting it, then you won't lose the entire gauge. So for machine gun, I think this just makes this a much better move. The fact that you control how much gas you're putting into it, right? I think that's great. And for everything else that uses your security bar, like the drone, just good quality of life. If you have the moment where you just get counter hit out of it or whatever, you don't just immediately lose all your meter. And this is great because there's now another way to spend meter. So how do we do that? Well, we all know our pal, the Behemoth Typhoon. You probably heard of it, right? So Behemoth Typhoon now for a security level can cancel into itself in the same version of itself. So if I'm going for like half circle forward, I can do it twice. Half circle back, I can do it twice. Down to up, you better believe it. Like basically anything. Whatever you can think of. Like all the combo routes are going to change. Because now you can do the same Behemoth Typhoon twice in a row. Like down, back, up Typhoon. One that kind of switches sides, right? Because if you do this doubled up, now it like kind of launches them directly on top of you. And like it gives new juggle. Like all the combo routes are going to change. We're going to have to figure this out. This is a wild and wacky change. Obviously changes pressure as well. Because I'm doing like, you know, one of the plus Typhoons, right? And I can just like double it up on itself. Like the chip damage alone. Oh my god. It's a very silly change. I'm a big fan. Jacko, not too much. Kind of a buff and a nerf. For sweep, now pushes the enemy much further away. Like from round start here, I could definitely get a follow-up. Like even if it's just a little tap, right? Now, nothing. So that's a nerf. But we have a buff. So her little buddies, when you kick them, you know, they don't love being kicked. But you can now dash cancel the kicks. Meaning the whole pressure aspect of all this nonsense is going to change big time. So every time you kick, you can just dash and it, like, I'm not no great Jacko player, right? But the implications of this to me are terrifying. The fact she can do this and then just immediately start screaming towards you, good luck blocking. That's really all I can say. So Mr. Happy Chows. Mr. Chows got a tiny buff, but a big nerf. So buff, Yoskyaku, aka toe taps, the Chun-Li kicks. Now, straight up bounce the enemy. So when it comes to just like general happyisms, like, I'm sure there's going to be stuff for that, right? So that's interesting. Something like sweep, the example they give here, sweep does launch just a smidge higher than it did before. So the example they give is just gives you a little bit more time to reload. So sure, Fair enough. But here's the thing. Clone. Clone ate a pretty substantial nerf. In that clone doesn't protect you while you're near it. So the idea of clone is you do clone takes the hit. Sure, right? But now if you are in the range of the hitbox, you will still get hit. The way it worked before is even if you're directly on top of it, the clone would take the hit and you can move around just fine. It was complete and total safety protection while you're in its radius, which was strong. And now, basically, it still will protect you from a lot of things, but like, it won't protect you if you're just behind it and the move's gonna reach anyways. Like, it's still good for all the things it's good for, right? Like, it still body blocks. Like, they have to deal with it, they have to interact with it, but it won't save you when it's just, you're already on top of it. Now, Happy does move a bit further backwards to make up for this, like his initial jump backwards. So that is something he's clearly out of range of most moves. But yeah, so that big defensive shield is a no-go. Now, Baiken, there's a lot to like here. So let's just go through it. 1, Stand Slash. The hit back, like the knockback of Stand Slash, they're much closer than they were before, meaning it's easier to say land Heavy Slash. And Heavy Slash bounces on regular hit now, which means if you want to go like into Heavy Kabari, this is all one easy natural combo. Awesome. Great. Crouch Heavy Slash also leaves the opponent much closer while they're airborne. So say we go into Tatami after the fact, right? Because they're closer on that initial launch, that means they're closer when we do Tatami. And that means, well, they're closer all around. That means we can dash and get close slash after the fact. Before, that would have never worked that same way. So that's really cool. And hey, speaking of more bounces, right? Forward Heavy Slash now bounces. Also, it's a really big boy bounce. And not only does it go into Heavy Kabari, it goes into Slash Kabari. So we get that rope tied up. Also, Slash Kabari leaves them, like, you are directly on top of them now. When you pull them in for the initial pull, they are touching you basically. Before, they'd be a little bit distance. Now you are as on top of them as like anything could possibly be at bare minimum throw range, right? So combo ability is expanded, pressure is expanded. Like there's a lot to love here, right? Just out of the gate. Yozansen, so they changed how the later half of the move works, specifically using it as a cross-up, right? So if you use it as a cross-up, the latter half of the move now has a vacuum effect. So it'll always try to bounce the enemy towards you versus bouncing them like away like it normally would, right? Which makes, you know, like all your combo ability, it just makes everything easier because they're going to be closer to you, not further away. So everything with like that kind of mix-up and like all the rewards from it all just get that much easier and better. That is also very good. Also very good for me as a fan of the Guilty Gear X2 series. We're going back. So Baiken has her counter, right? And we're reverting the rules basically where you can counter while blocking like you could back in the day. So if the enemy comes at you with like, you know, brain dead block string, you know what it's going to be 100%. While you're in your block stun, you can cancel block stun into the counter now, right? And now you can stop them from going for whatever various moves. Now, due to the nature of the counter, and now that you can do it while in blocking, right? You only get the guard crush. You don't get necessarily the full counter, because getting that much guaranteed damage while they're just hitting buttons while you're blocking, that would be a bit much, right? That'd be a bit much. But still, that's really good. Like, that's really good. The era of, you know, brain dead block strings are over when you're fighting Baiken. She can always end your block string and then, you know, get a turn. Also, when she does the guard crush version of the counter, she can dash cancel it now too. So then, regardless of where you are in range, because, you know, some people, they'll be pretty far away, like Potemkin's got those big arms, you can dash in and take a turn now, right? So this is a very strong return to the defensive aspect of the character. So buttons better, combo ability better, the gimmicks are better, like everything's kind of better. Baiken wins big. Testament has exactly basically a change, and that is how Stain works. When you have Stain up, throw, now detonate Stain. That's literally it. But that's not insignificant. Like, hey, more damage is more damage. Ain't nobody ever gonna argue that. But, you know, if you happen to get something going here while in the corner, you get the guaranteed wall break. Like, that is a lot more potential damage in the corner. And, of course, it'll heavily scale, but more potential damage mid-screen. So, it just gives Testament an aspect that Testament never really had, because before, you get throw, and that's all you would get. And by the time throw's over, the Stain State would probably run out, right? So now it makes throw just as scary as like any other button while in Stain State. And to me, even though it's the only real change, I think that's a good one. Bridget only one real change. It's an interesting one, though. So when you toss out Yo-Yo and you do quarter circle back kick, you can, like, you know, go to it, right? They did remove an ability. So before, you could jump cancel before you get to your destination. You cannot do that anymore. But what you can do is change the angles by holding up or down. So now you get all sorts of funky angles that didn't exist before. Because wherever you may place your yo-yo, you can do all sorts of fancy new things. Now that's definitely gonna mess around with stuff. Maybe potentially new combo routes, as she can reach new angles she couldn't reach before, right? And it's just gonna be silly. It'll take a true Bridgeteer to really unlock the potential of this, but just as it is, the fact that you can just go so crazy with the momentum here, like wherever you may be, I think that's interesting at the very least. Now, Sin's very interesting. There's some fundamental aspects of the character change. One, big Pokeboy, right? So Stand Slash has a lot more recovery. So if you whiff, tough luck, right? And Crouching Slash has a bit more startup, right? And this is all predicated on the fact that he has, you know, the hunger meter. You know, you do the thing, do the follow-up, whatever, take some of the bar. Now, the recharge rate before it can even begin to recharge is quite a bit slower. So, in compensation for this fact, they've actually made the moves quite a bit stronger, not the least of which is the dash out of it. You can just do it by itself now. Like, it still takes the bar. And due to the fact that recharge, to begin with, is slower, right? You better believe in it, but that means, like, any given move is dash cancelable, basically, right? If it's special cancelable, it's now dash cancelable. Things like Big Driver now has more corner carry, like it moves them further into the corner faster. That's great. Also, now the second hit is a guard crush and leaves you quite advantage on hit, or rather on block. So that's nice, right? Once again, we're powering up these moves. Hoof Stomp, the follow-up now bounces. That's something. Also, just like before here, the follow-up, if you so choose to do it, also is a guard crush, right? So the follow-up now bounces in combos and is a guard crush on block. That's a lot to love there. And with the launcher, if you're going to burn even more bar, right, you can actually snag people in the air with the jab. And I'll leave it to you to figure out the combo routes, right? But now there will be combo routes. So that's really cool. Elk Hunt now launches higher than it did before. So once again, like any general combo ability, like all that stuff's going to get a lot easier. And also, just like all the other ones here that we're talking about, on block, this one already did guard crush before, right? Now the guard crush is just better than it was. So once again, it takes more time to get the hunger meter going again, but all the various follow-ups are just better across the board. So Bedman, not too many changes, but well, we'll get into it here. One, counter hit heavy slash now leaves the opponent much closer than they were before. So depending on distance, basically, it's just that much easier to like land follow-ups. Sure, makes sense. Now, quarter forward heavy slash, the big old guard break, right? The guard break on this is not as good anymore. Like, it's still plus, still, you know, guard crushes, but it's not as overwhelming. They never give us exact numbers, but basically, it's just going to be less, right? Sure, fair enough. But now the follow-up, the error follow-up afterwards, the head that it pops out now, actually, I'm not going to say it homes perfectly, because it doesn't home perfectly, but it will attempt to go near the enemy. Before, it was a very fixed duration, right? Now, depending on the relativity of your two characters, like, it will attempt to shoot it out. So the main attack is maybe not as good, but the follow-up is a lot better, as it's now a lot more reliable. Also, if you happen to be in the super, well, the follow-up gets that much better. Considering it has like that gigantic explosion, the fact that now it'll always kind of get to the enemy, get where it's going, it makes it that much better. So not huge changes for Bedman, but interesting ones. So Asuka, one of the things out of the gate here, This is very specific for like all of his various spells. The one that matters the most here that I'm going to talk about here is Bit Shift Metron. So Bit Shift Metron, as it stands now, like that's the big, analyze cube, right? So you can't get a 5 stack out of the gate. You can get a 1 stack, it shoots 1 cube, right? And it'll build up over time, and it'll build up faster than it did before, but no more 5 out of the gate. Because I guess they consider that too strong. There's a lot of little particulars about all the various spells. For that, please check the patch notes, because that's just too much to go into. But I do want to mention some of the bigger changes here. So say like the supers. So the big cube super, right? Pushback on block has been heavily reduced. So if you are closer to Asuka, well, you are just closer to Asuka when it happens. Changing the deck. So you have a lot more time to change the deck now. Here's the thing. It drains mana at a much larger rate, but you have time to think, basically, right? Like, what am I doing? What am I switching up? Sure, you have time to think. Also, if you hit left or right, you can actually switch the deck. Like, which deck you want it to be, you actually have that option now. So that's actually pretty strong. Like, the fact you have more time, like, okay, what are we picking? I don't necessarily want from this deck. I want from, like, this out of it, whatever it may be. I think that's an interesting change. It lets you play, the more calculating version of the character. Besides that, the various versions of Recover Mana basically just recover mana better, so that's a buff. But frankly, yeah, Asuka is always a very complex character. He is not my kind of character, I'm not gonna lie to you. So for a lot of the particulars of the spell stuff that's changed, please check the patch notes. If you play Asuka, I'm sure you already know. Johnny, as per the patch notes. Johnny had a pretty big, balance change not too long ago, so they're kind of happy where he is. So there's really only one change. Projectiles. Mistfinder can now clash with projectiles and destroy them. So that's it. So effectively, Johnny got buffed. There you go. Elphelt, some interesting changes here. So first off, of course, go back Heavy Slash. The old grenade toss. Now launches quite a bit higher than it did before. To the point where you can land like close slash and it works. That did not work that way before. So that's cool. Cortical back S, this guy here. So this is the chain starter, can now also be dash canceled. So, you got a lot of various gimmicks from the chain and all that. And now this is another one. You can go for a throw or whatever. So it just adds to the layer. And hey, speaking of the chain. So the Heavy Slash follow-up. Now, straight up wall bounces. You don't need any particulars. You don't need any setup. If you got the hit, you got the wall bounce. Simple as that. Now, here's a fairly substantial change. The bomb super is now a strike, not a throw. Also, the grenades from it take quite a bit longer to detonate. So the idea here is, once the bombs are on, basically like anything like a Heavy Slash, it'll immediately detonate it. But one of the things here, since it is a strike now, is you can wall break with it. And also, once you wall break with it, when you have the area shift, the grenades are still on the enemy. So potentially new tactics will emerge from this. So interesting quality of life changes. Also, her Wild Assault changed. She now has a red Wild Assault. She used to have a blue Wild Assault. So I guess we'll have to play around with that. But still, interesting changes overall. So ABBA, we got basically 2 real changes to note. One has to do with cortical forward kick. Move that just like advances her very far, very fast, right? So the move on counter hit, it still bounces the enemy, but the bounce is not as big. So before I could do this, and I could combo into close slash, into crouch heavy slash, into like whatever, right? Now, no dice. Like I can get a follow-up hit, like I guess I can dash cancel, whatever, but like I can't get like that full extended combo. And sure, fair enough, I suppose. But we do have a benefit. So Dragon Punch motion, Heavy Punch, the Danzai. So this, they changed how like the gravity works on this a bit on regular hit. Like it still naturally combos is fine, but she's a bit lower to the ground while doing it. But on counter hit, then this whole thing kind of changes up. Because on counter hit, all of a sudden, big bounce. The bounce is simply much higher than it was before. So in terms of if you're fishing, you get it. Like your rewards, depending on distance, can be pretty big. So basically, one counter hit situation got a lot better, another one got worse. And finally, Slayer. So out of the gate, I've ignored a lot of like little defense and health tweaks, all that kind of stuff, because there's so much of the cast. He's actually one of the few characters that's going to have less overall effective health. In Guilty Gear, everyone has the same health, but like the defense modifier, regardless, overall Slayer's going to take more damage. Because Slayer's pretty good, y'all, right? So that's how they're going to help bring him down a little bit. So one thing, his backdash. The backdash, the numbers are the same overall, but the first part of the move is now faster. The lighter half of the move is slower. Because he has the move where he can like follow up, right? Slayer has Hand of Doom, right? Where he can cancel his backdash into the big punch, right? So basically, if you're trying to like catch people whiffing buttons, this lets you do that better because he moves backwards, further, faster. Once again, the numbers are the same, but just the part where you can use it as like a spacing trap, that part is now better. Also better, forward kick. You have the version where you can fake out, right? The fake out version now recovers like instantaneously. Before there was a little bit of like recovery lag. Now there's like nothing. You can like jump, like, or more to the point, you can go for like a throw. You can go for a blood-sucking universe. Like if they stood still at all, you can get a throw in now, right? So that is actually quite a bit better. That definitely helps them mix up / pressure game. Now map a hunch to get a little bit of a nerf. So if it connects, there's a little bit more pushback between you and the enemy. So a little bit, more difficult to just keep following up. If it is blocked, there's a bit more recovery. So it's a little bit easier for the enemy to take their turn, right? So basically on hit or on block, the situation is just a little bit worse. It's not a disaster or nothing, but regulating a powerful move. Also file under substantial nerf. So super map a hunch, big old punch, right, is no longer frame 1 invincible. So using it as a reversal tool no longer works. Now it still retains some invincibility, but those invincible frames come after the initial frames. So they want you to use it as like a call out tool, a counter poke tool, like whatever, but it is not a get off me reversal. So like, I guess you could say they're moving the goalpost on changing what they want the move to be, but since it's not a frame 1 reversal anymore, definitely a nerf. And that, my friends, is the video. It's a long video. Oh my god. So once again, I've said it like a million times, but the patch notes are in the video description. There's a lot of stuff like just little things that don't bear mentioning in an already very long video. And it's all there in fine detail. I'm kind of giving you the greatest hits of the roster. So if you want to know more info, check out the patch notes. But yeah, so Season 4 is now here. We got Dizzy. We got a lot of more fun guests coming here. We got Venom, another classic. We got some new people. Anika from the upcoming anime. We have the first ever guest character ever in Guilty Gear with Lucy from Cyberpunk. So fun times ahead for Season 4, for sure. Looking forward to seeing how it's just going to all wrap out. Interesting patch. Interesting patch, right? I could see some people being very happy about some things. I could see people being very sad about some things. We'll have to wait till it all shifts out, I guess. But my friends, that is the video. Once again, if you can spare a like, that'd be very appreciated. But otherwise, we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some Guilty Gear.